Welcome into this week's edition of the Co-Lin Coaches Show. It's a new season, new sports joining us this week. And joining me for the first time this season is head women's basketball coach, Dr. Britta Stephens. Coach, thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
And Coach, obviously you went 1-1 on this weekend, had your first game against Kilgore. Came up a little bit short in that one. I know you and I talked and you said you felt like you played a little bit better in that one than the game that you won. We'll talk about the win in a little bit, but talk about how the girls played in the first game against Kilgore.
You know, I was over the moon with how well we played against Kilgore on Friday night. We came out, we got hit in the mouth a little bit early. They shot it really well, better than I expected that they would shoot it. And we responded. We came back. It was like a 12-point game at halftime, and it could have been much closer than that. We had a lot of turnovers, a lot of unforced errors. Again, we came back after halftime, and we kind of cleaned some of that up. We had a really good, the first 3 minutes coming out of the half, I told them, I said, those first 3 minutes are going to be really, really important. And we had a good first 3 minutes, and we made a run. Late in the game, I looked up, and we're down 13. You know, we've got a chance to cut it to 10, to 8, and we just played really, really well. You know, I thought we ran our stuff. I thought that, you know, their pressure didn't bother us. I was just really pleased with the overall effort that we gave.
And if you look at the line scores, 24-17 out of the first quarter, 7-point deficit, and then as you mentioned at half, 40-28. I think one thing that stuck out to me looking at it is in the second half, you matched them point for point. You both scored 29 points. So it seems like you said, the second half, team started playing a little bit better. It felt like a leading impact player for that one was Sierra Myers. She had 15 points and 7 rebounds. She kind of, I think from what I remember, was really just kind of your leading scorer and rebound getter for that one. Talk about how C played.
She played really, really well, and it's funny because the day before we were practicing, she rolled her ankle. We didn't know if she was going to be able to play until Friday morning. I'm going to the training room, and I'm going, okay, I don't take bad news on Fridays. Give me some good news that she can play. And they said she can play as long as she can tolerate it. And, of course, for her, she's from Baton Rouge, so this was going home. It was all her people were going to be there, so adrenaline and all those things were on her side, and she played really, really well. I didn't even know her ankle was hurt. It didn't bother her that much, so she came out and played really well. 15-9, that's a great stat line, especially for our first game. Those of you who watched this team last year, sees a returner, and she's a completely different person. When you look at her, she worked so hard this summer to get her body in shape and everything, and I think that's going to be a huge asset to her as the season goes on because she's going to be able to play more minutes. She's more versatile, and it's enabling her to score more.
And I think the one thing that you like to see is, we'll talk about the game against Shorter now. You bounce back, and you bounce back in a strong way. You win that one 76-52, and it really kind of felt like, based on the line score that we've seen, and I know we've had some issues getting the stats back and those kind of things, but based on what we've seen, it really kind of felt like y'all were just able to keep Shorter at an arm's distance the whole game.
Yeah, we came out, and I told them coming in, I was excited that we opened the season with Kilgore. Some of the other teams in our league have not opened the season with quite as strong of a schedule, and I wanted to be challenged. I wanted us to be challenged, and I think we grew more from a loss in that game than we would have in a win. But I also like the balance of having a really tough team and then a team that's a little bit better match for us. And Shorter was a good team, but it was a good match. We came out. First play of the game, LaShunty Payne hits a 3, and it's just click, 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 click. And we did, I don't think we ever fell behind in that game. So we were able to kind of keep them in an arm's distance. We did a great job guarding. We made such unselfish plays. That was the biggest thing I could say about that game is everybody was unselfish. Almost, I told Coach Holt, almost to the point where sometimes I felt like we were a little too unselfish. I felt like we should have shot it, but I'm never going to get on the kids for being unselfish because you can't teach that, and if they will continue to do that and continue to be that unselfish, it will make us really, really successful. The stats from that one, we had some hiccups with the film, and we're working on that, but I know Ashanti Fleming had 19 points. I thought she played really well. In fact, I didn't think she had a great game against Kilgore on Friday night, and she's a player we expect big things out of, and then she came back on Saturday and really responded. Sierra didn't have as good of a game on Saturday. She had a good game, but not as good, and I'll be honest with you, when we kept them at arm's distance, I immediately told Coach, I said, we're going to keep her out because we need her to heal, because we need her to stay healthy for the rest of the season.
And I think another one that kind of jumps out, Jamia Smith, 10.6 rebounds, one of your sophomore transfers. I know we talked about going into the season, you were expecting big things out of her. It looks like she kind of got that first kind of, not necessarily an eye-popping game, but still 10 points is 10 points and 6 rebounds is 6 rebounds. It really made a difference for you.
Yeah, Jamia Smith is an extremely skilled player, and just her experience and stuff is going to help us. One thing that 10 points and 6 rebounds doesn't tell you on the stat sheet is she took 2 charges. That's a 6-foot post kid taking 2 charges. So, again, very unselfish. And if we can get somebody else to, those things are ripple effects. If somebody else picks up on that and somebody else starts taking charges, now we get better and better and better. So I was really pleased with her. Even on Friday night, she played well. I don't know what her stat line was. She guards the ball so well. She's almost like a guard, and that's the next game coming up. South Arkansas, Coach and I are trying to figure out, what's the best way to guard and what are we going to do? And they've got a post that's really good, and I'm super comfortable with Jamia Smith guarding her.
And that'll be an excellent segue because we are going to talk about that team coming up. A little bit unique situation here in the schedule. You don't see many basketball teams playing a home-and-home with a team, but that's what's happening this week. You got South Arkansas. You'll play them on Tuesday, November 7th here at Mullen Gym, and then you'll go to their place over in El Dorado, Arkansas on I believe that's November 9th on that one. You'll have a day in between those. What do you know about that team? I know last year we saw them over here. I think they were a team that was kind of trying to rebound, trying to figure some things out. And I believe that was Coach's first or second year. But what do you know about the Stars when they're coming down here?
I don't know a lot. I know last year they finished the season with only 6 players, so they did have some hiccups. It was the first year of the program coming back. This year they're much better. They've got a full roster. They've got a player returning who averaged 19 points and 11 rebounds last season. She was an NJCAA Player of the Week several times, honorable mention, all conference. So she is a nice player. I've got film on them. We've watched some. They've got good pieces. So this won't be a game where we just walk in and roll the ball out and say, hey, here we go. We're going to have to play well. We're going to have to guard. We're going to have to play like we played against Kilgore and played against Shorter. And I think our team will be excited to play. It'll be our first home game. So I think that'll be good. I think we'll have a nice crowd and everything. I'm excited to play at home. This will be weird for me, though. I've never coached on this end of the sideline. I've always been on the other end of the sideline. So that'll be an adjustment. But we're excited to play at home. It's unique in that we'll play them Tuesday and then we turn around and play them on Thursday. For a coach, it's kind of a coach's dream because the prep will be shorter. It's also very dangerous because if you play really well and beat them by a large margin, you expect to walk in up there and play really well and beat them by a large margin, and vice versa. If they beat you by a large margin, so who knows how that would go. We just have to be ready to play both nights and, treat it like we would any other game.
Absolutely. So lots of action we're looking forward to. Again, Lady Wolves go 1-1 at their time during the BRCC Lady Bear Classic over in Baton Rouge, falling to Kilgore, beating Shorter. Home opener is coming up Tuesday, November 7th against South Arkansas. Then they'll be on the road to play that same team, South Arkansas and El Dorado, Arkansas, on November 9th. Don't forget, we also have men's basketball on November 6th. The guys are back home playing Delgado, their 4th game in 4 days. We won't get to talk to Coach Sanders this week. We'll have him on for you next week, though. Stick through this commercial break. Coming up after the break, we'll have head football coach Glenn Davis. We're going to talk about the Wolves' shutout over Hinds and clinching the South Division Championship after this. Welcome back in. Thanks for sticking with us through the break. Joining me now is head football coach Glenn Davis. Coach, thanks for joining me as always.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Jim.
And Coach, the regular season is over, but the season isn't over for the Wolves. Coming off a big win, 13-0. I know a lot of people will see that and think not a great game for the offense, but a great game for the defense. First shutout of the season. But talk about how you feel about how the team played.
Well, I thought we played hard. There were some areas of the game we played really well, and the big thing is we won 13-0, and a W's a W.
And Coach, obviously, we'll go with our impact players. Again, we always start with our quarterback, Devon Todd. A game where, again, maybe the stats don't jump out at you. 14 of 24, 120 yards, had 1 interception. But talk about how you feel about how he played. It kind of felt like at times, he did struggle a little bit, but when you needed a big pass, he was able to get you those.
He played well. The stats, like you say, don't always reflect how a guy plays, and he got the ball to the right guys and distributed the ball like we needed it distributed. And we may have been a little conservative in the game, but offensively. But like I say, 13-0, and had some other opportunities to score touchdowns. We just kind of came up short on that.
I think he also had several key rushes for you as well, times that kept some drives alive. I think the biggest impact performer was probably Johnny Daniels again. Another game, back-to-back games now, he's gone over 100 yards, 16 rushes, 105 yards, 1 touchdown, the touchdown long run. We'll talk about that play in a little bit. But again, just talk about how Johnny performed. I know he got a little relief from the other running backs, but Johnny, once again, really just turning into the bell cow for you.
He did. Johnny had the long run, and that was a play where he broke 2 tackles and then outran their secondary. And he's been consistent at doing that all year, and we just have to continue to be able to run the football and have big plays like that.
And your leading receiver in that one was Richard Mays Jr., a guy that's kind of worked his way back in, had a little bit of a health issue there, missed some time, but he's finally found, I think, his stride again. He had 5 receptions, 29 yards, and I think Jamarcus Melton also had 3 receptions, 24 yards, those 2 guys being your big guys. Just talk about the play of Richard throughout the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to get Richard back, and I think as we keep going, hopefully as we can keep advancing, that there are going to be more plays from him down the field. He's a threat after he catches the ball to break tackles and make plays, and Sean has been really consistent here lately for us, and so both of those guys are we're leaning on heavily in the passing game.
And Coach, I think we've talked about it several times this year, and we've even mentioned a couple times here. Offense puts fans in the stands, but defense wins championships, and certainly this defense is playing at that kind of a level. A game where you held Hinds to 125 yards, 9 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, 2 interceptions, 2 blocks. Everything came in 2s in this one. It feels like Billy Pullen was your leader again. This time leading the team in tackles, had 7 total tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. Just talk about the play of Billy and how he could have had, I think, 2 more sacks, but the quarterback was able to throw the ball away. But he was just a force all night.
Yeah, I mean, defensively we played really good, and Billy, like I say, led the group, and Hinds offensively is not at the top of our stat categories, and it was the kind of game we needed our defense to dominate the game like that, and it's the first really cold game that we've had this year, and so that all takes some adjusting to get through. The balls are a little harder for your receivers to catch, and it comes out of the quarterback's hand differently when you're throwing it. But defensively, they gave us the kind of game that we really needed from them, was to dominate the game and shut them out.
Some other guys that had big games, Cavante Wells, Dedrick Hicks, both 5 tackles, but a couple other guys that really stood out, I think, guy we talked about a lot, Caden Dukes, 4 total tackles, had 1 pass breakup, and also had a block on a punt, I think set up a scoring opportunity later, but either way, it was a big play at that point. Talk about, again, we've talked about Caden, you've talked about him being a leader all year, but it seemed like he really stepped up in big moments during this game.
He did. I mean, like I say, the block punt, it was one of those deals. We were in safe return and kept our entire defense out there, and they kind of took it that we weren't going to rush, and Cade rushes and blocks the kick, and he kind of comes up with those kind of plays all the time, and like I say, he's kind of a glue over there on defense also, and gets guys lined up.
And another one, I think a lot of people, they look at the box score, maybe he won't stand out as much, but he really had a big impact on the game, I thought, throughout it. Navarian Benson, just 2 tackles, but he also had a tackle for a loss. He had an interception, and he might have had the biggest play in the game that kept the shutout intact. We'll talk about that play a little bit later, but he had the blocked field goal. Again, just all over the field was Navarian. It's kind of something he's been all year. He hadn't had the tackle numbers, but if you go watch the tape, he really shines.
He does. I mean, he kind of makes those kind of plays that, you really don't think about it much until you go back and watch the film and look at the stats and that kind of stuff. And he's played solid all year.
And Coach, we'll jump to the scoring summary. Something the last couple of weeks leading up to this one, you've talked about getting off to a little slow start, but offensively, this one you kind of got off to a quick start. You scored on the opening possession, could have had a touchdown, but you got the field goal. Brandon Gillum scores on a 29-yard field goal in the opening possession. Ended a 7-play, 30-yard drive, and you're up 3-0. So I feel like after that first drive, you got to feel like, all right, we kind of got things rolling. Now let's really start pushing forward.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that hurt us, I thought, was penalties, especially in the red zone, that plus end of the field where we're got drives going, and then all of a sudden we get behind the chains and we're having to make up yards that that we wouldn't have to normally, and so those are things that are kind of hit us in the face Thursday night, and but I thought our kids played, they control the ball. I mean, time of possession was heavy on our side, and like I said, we just got to finish with touchdowns instead of field goals. And if we can get that back going again, we'll be fine.
And we've talked all year. This team has been one that has had to show a lot of grit and determination, and this was another game where that was true. So you go throughout the majority of the rest of the first half, you're still leading 3-0. Defense is really keeping Hinds down. They can't get anything going. The lone touchdown for the Wolves comes in the second quarter. This is the Johnny Daniels touchdown rush. Like you said, I was up in the Hinds press box looking through it. I saw him break through, break a tackle, break one, and then he was just going. And I looked up at those guys. I said, he's scoring from right here. And just 80 yards later, I think it's the longest touchdown rush of his entire career. Talk about the play.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of an inside zone. It's a RPO play for us. And, it was give read, and Johnny gets hit from both sides with two linebackers, and he breaks the tackle and like I say, finishes run by score. And
so you're up 10-0, 1:05 left. That's the scores. You go into halftime. You go into halftime knowing, hey, we could be up a lot more, but we still are up 10-0. What's the message to the guys going through the rest of it, knowing that you're 30 minutes away from achieving a goal?
Yeah, I mean, that was just it. We were up 10-0 and could have been up more than that. And the thing that we talked to them about was finishing drives. Don't shoot yourselves in the foot with penalties, and defensively just keep playing like they're playing.
And it come out in the third quarter, and it's a lot of the same. Both defenses just kind of matching keeping both offenses kind of down. But you get a drive going, you score on this one. It's Gillum again, 34-yard field goal, ended 5-play, 24-yard drive. Excuse me. And you're up 13-0 with about 6.5 minutes left. So you really feel like at that point you're really kind of in the driver's seat. 13-0. At that point, maybe feels like it's 26-0 or even 39-0 with the way the Hinds offense just couldn't get rolling against the defense.
Right. I mean, the thing that I have to give Hinds credit for is that I thought they were probably more physical on the line of scrimmage than we were, and like I say that we had scrimmaged them earlier in the year, and I think we may have been a little overconfident on our part for underestimating them a little bit, and but they played hard on defense, and we just got to keep getting better from that standpoint.
And we get in there, we go out there the next drive, and Hinds gets a little bit of a broken play. Quarterback got loose. I think he tried to throw one, and the receiver just got under it, and he scampered down into the red zone, and you're thinking, is this the way Hinds gets back into it? They have a couple of penalties that makes them line up for a field goal, and this is where Navarian makes maybe one of arguably the plays of the game. He gets in there, and I don't think he got a full hand on it. I think he got a couple of fingers on it, but it was just enough to redirect the field goal and blocked field goal, and it keeps it 13-0. That was a huge play right there. It felt like.
I mean, anytime you can sudden change, whether it's an interception or a block kick of some sort, that's big defensively for you.
And obviously, you go on, you win 13-0. Defense stands strong. The final 3 possessions for the Eagles ended in a turnover and downs and 2 punts. And after the final punt, you get to get in coach's favorite formation, victory formation, and kneel it out. But with the win, you secure a share of the South Division championship, and by virtue of owning all the tiebreakers, you get the number 1 seed. So the Wolves now get to do something they haven't done since 2014 and host a playoff game. First time Wolves have been in the playoffs since 2018. Congrats on all of that, Coach. But next up, we know who we got to play, the number 2 seed out of the North and the number 15 team in the nation, Northwest Rangers. What do you know about the Rangers going into this one?
Well, they're going to be big, physical up front on the offensive line. They do a great job running wide zone play. Defensively, they're going to give you a lot of looks. They're going to give you movement, and we just got to be able to put hats on people up front, and and those are the biggest things that we've got to control, and it equals the line of scrimmage. We got to win that battle on both sides of the ball, and passing game, we've got to throw and catch, and big thing is make them one-dimensional offensively. If we do that, we'll be good.
And obviously, a chance for a championship appearance on the line on Saturday as well, too. We'll have that game for you on CoLinAthletics.com if you can't make it. But if you can make it, it's going to be Saturday, November 11th at 2 p.m. here at Stone Stadium in Wesson. We look forward to having everybody out here, and we hope that the Wolfpack faithful will come out, be loud, be proud, and support your Wolfpack team. They've had a great year, and we want to keep it going. That'll wrap up the show this week. I'm Kevin Kaiser, Sports Information Coordinator here at Co-Lin. Just a reminder, we've got men's basketball on campus Monday. The Wolves will be playing Delgado. Then Tuesday, we've got the Lady Wolves basketball team home opener against South Arkansas. Then they'll go on the road on Thursday and face that same South Arkansas team in El Dorado. And then on Saturday, the big football game, the first round of the MACCC playoffs. Wolves versus Rangers, 2 p.m. at Stone Stadium. We'll see you then.